Welcome to Arabic classes. Today I'll teach about impact of vowel letter on an Arabic verb. In two other units of the same lecture, you have learned about what is a weak verb, and also you have learned what are the weak letters in Arabic language. You also have learned about what are the different types of a weak Arabic verb on the basis of the location of a weak letter in a weak verb. I'll just give you certain examples so that you may recall everything, and I would request you to repeat with me so that before getting into details of today's lecture, we may recall everything that we have discussed earlier. There are three letters among 28 letters, Arabic letters, which are called weak letters, and also they are called huruf al-illa. They are alif, waw, ya. Alif, waw, ya. And one more interesting thing is they are interchangeable. For example, if in any given verb alif is used, it may be replaced with waw, waw may be replaced with ya, ya may be replaced with waw, waw may be replaced with alif. So everything is possible. One could be used in another's place. I'll give you example of waw, that is qala yaqulu. Initially, or maybe we can say in reality, this qala is qawala, qaf, waw, lam, and later it became qala, and its imperfect is yaqulu. Another example is nala yanalu. Qala yaqulu means to say, nala yanalu means to get, masha yamshi to walk, rama yagmi to throw. So now I have given you examples of verbs which have at least one weak letter in itself. For example, qala yaqulu, waw, nala yanalu, alif is there, and masha yamshi, visibly ya is there, rama yagmi, you can see ya in this verb. Now the second question is, are all three weak letters used in the weak verbs? Okay, before answering this question, I'll talk about something else. You must be aware of radical letters of or radicals of a Arabic verb, means root letters of any Arabic verb. For example, if I say qala yaqulu qawlan qailun maqulatun maqalun qul la taqul, all these different words, I'm sure you must have noted that all these different words, there are three common letters. One is qaf, waw, lam, and these common letters are called root letters. These common letters are called radicals of a verb. Qaf, waw, lam. I'll give you another example where there is no weak letter, but just to help you understand the radicals. Kataba, yaktubu, katibun, maktubun, uktub, la taktub, kitabatun, maktabun, maktabatun. After listening all these words, you must have observed that all these words consist of three letters. One is kaf, second is ta, third one is ba. Katibun, kataba. Maktubun, kataba. Maktabatun, kataba. Maktabun kataba. Katib means the writer. Kataba, he wrote. Yaktubu, he writes. Now you have understood that there is a rule in Arabic language that words could be derived, or rather better to say are derived from a particular root word. So now I'll come back to the actual question. So question here is, are all three weak letters alif, waw, ya used in the weak verbs? Answer is very crystal clear, no. Alif is not at all used, only waw and ya are used. Thus there are two types of al-fi'l al-mu'tal which are available in books. One is al-mu'tal al-wawi, mu'tal al-ya'i. Mu'tal, the weak verb where waw is there, the weak verb where ya is there. For example, waza'a, masha. Waza'a, example of waw, masha, example of ya. Now I'll move to another question, that is, what is the exact location of the weak letter in any weak Arabic verb? So the answer is very simple. It may come anywhere, in beginning, in the middle, or at the end. On the basis of location, the weak verbs are divided into three categories. One is called mu'talul fa. Mu'tal, the weak, alfa, radical first. Mu'talul ain, mu'tal weak, al-ain, the second radical. Mu'talul lam, where third radical is a weak letter. So there are three: mu'talul fa, mu'talul ain, mu'talul lam. First radical is weak, second radical is weak, and third radical is weak. Now on the basis of location of each weak letter in a verb, we have three types. A verb where first radical is weak letter, a verb where second radical is weak letter, and a verb where third radical is weak letter. So where first radical is weak letter, we call it mu'talul fa. You may repeat with me. You must remember that we are a learner of Arabic language, or should remember certain Arabic terminologies so that he may not get confused in future. Mu'talul fa. You can understand mu'talul fa, first radical. Mu'talul ain, second radical. Mu'talul lam, third radical. Should I give you examples? Yes, sure, I'll give you examples. Waza'a, waza'a, to keep, to put something somewhere. Waza'a, waw, dad, ain. So waw, this is a weak letter, and this is coming as in the beginning of a verb. Means first radical is harf al-illa. First radical is a weak letter, wada'a. Another example is qala. This is second radical is weak letter, qala, qaf, alif, lam, qala. And another example of a verb where third radical is weak letter, that is rama. One more example, masha. Rama, masha, ya is last letter, third radical of this verb. So now I'm quite sure that you must have understood there are three types of the weak verbs on the basis of location of weak letters in a particular verb. First radical, weak, mu'talul fa, mu'talul fa. Second radical is weak, mu'talul ain. Third radical is weak, mu'talul lam. Examples: waza'a, waw, Qala, alif, rama, ya. Now I'll move to another very important feature of Arabic weak verbs. What are the different names of different weak verbs indicating location of the weak letter? Is there any name? Yes, there is a name. If a weak letter comes in the beginning, that is called mithal. If a weak letter comes in the beginning, or we can say if first radical is weak letter, we will call that verb mithal. For example, wa'ada. For example, wasafa. For example, waza'a. All these three are mithal. Why? Because the first radical of all these three verbs is weak letter. Now, if second radical is weak letter, for example, qala, for example, ba'a, we will call it ajwaf. So there are two different names, mithal, ajwaf. Mithal, where first radical is weak letter. Ajwaf, where second radical is weak letter. Now, the third one. Third radical is a weak letter. Such verbs are called naqis. Mathalan, for example, qaza. For example, masha. And also there is a possibility that there are two weak letters in a verb, but both are coming together or both are coming separately. If both are coming together, we call lafif maqroon. An example is tawa yatwi. In tawa you can see to, waw, ya. Waw, ya, two different weak letters are coming together in a single weak verb. And lafif maqroon is over. Now let's move to lafif mafruq, where two different weak letters are coming in a weak verb but separately. For example, waqa. Waqa, wafa. Waqa, waw and ya, both are separated by qaf, waqa. And wafa, waw and ya are separated by wafa. Waqa means to protect, wafa means to fulfill. Should I ask you, what are the benefits of weak letters? Because you have seen that these weak letters are omitted many times and changed many times. For example, qala, there is no waw. Yaqulu, there is no alif. Masha, there is no ya. Yamshi, there is no alif. Qul, there is no waw, no alif. Qala yaqulu qul. Masha, yamshi, imshi, there is no alif, there is no ya. Sometimes we delete, sometimes we replace. So what is the actual benefit of these weak letters in a particular or in any given Arabic verb? Shouldn't I tell you, the actual benefit is phonetic simplification. Due to this, whenever we feel that we cannot pronounce an Arabic verb properly due to a weak letter, we just simply delete or we replace. For example, qala. Easily we can say qala, but we cannot pronounce qawala. It's a bit difficult in comparison with qala. So what we did? Qala, perfect. Imperfect, we say yaqulu. Waw is coming back. In one place, waw has been replaced with alif. In another place, waw is visible. Third example of same root letters is qul, no alif, no waw. In first qala, we replaced. In qul, omitted, deletion. We deleted everything. So there is no weak letter. So this is the beauty of these weak letters. So whenever we want to say something easily, we either delete these weak letters or replace these letters. We cannot delete Hamza, we cannot delete the consonant letters, but easily these weak letters, that's why they are called weak, could be deleted, could be replaced easily without any agitation. Now let's move to another topic. Topic is same obviously. Another point related to this topic. Possible derivations of a weak verb. For example, I have qala. He said. Is there any possibility to form other verbs, other nouns from this root? Yes, there is a possibility. I'll not give you too many examples. I will give only few examples. For example, qala, perfect, imperfect, yaqulu, imperative, qul, prohibitive, la taqul, active participle, qailun, passive participle, maqulun, maqulatun, we say. Sometimes we add ta mudawwara, gol ta, round ta. I'll give you another example. Another example is masha. Masha, yamshi, imshi, la tamshi. Masha, he walked. Yamshi, he walks. Or he will walk. Imshi, walk. It's imperative. La tamshi, don't walk. Mashi, the one who walks. And mamshiyun, where someone walks. As I have told you, there is a possibility to have three types of weak verbs. Mu'tallul fa, first radical, is a weak letter. Mu'tallul ayn, second radical is a weak letter. Mu'tallul lam, third radical is a weak letter. The first radical's example of a verb where first radical is a weak letter, that is waqafa. The root letters are waw, qaf and fa. Perfect is waqafa. Imperfect is yaqifu. And imperative is qif. Prohibitive la taqif. Active waqifun. Passive participle mawqufun. So this is what you have learned till today about the importance of existence of weak letters in a weak verb. We can derive so many forms. We can make pronunciation easier by deleting, by replacing. Now I have another question. What are the commonly used patterns of weak verbs? You have learned about 6 patterns of triliteral verbs, which are primitive triliteral verbs, primitive originally triliteral, fataha, nasara, zaraba, sami'a, hasiba, karuma. Out of these 6, there are only few which are commonly used for the weak verbs. For example, wajada, ba'a, rama. Wajada yajidu, ba'a yabi'u, rama yarmi. Wajada yajidu, in actual it was wajada yawjidu. Wajada yawjidu. If I give you example of primitive triliteral pattern, that is zaraba yazribu. You can relate both. Keep on top zaraba and below that wajada. Zaraba wajada. Sound. Through sound you can understand. Daraba wajada. Now, imperfect yadribu. Yad, ya, dad, ra, yadribu. Yawjidu. But since yajidu was not easy to pronounce, it has been changed and waw has been deleted, omitted from here, and we have only yajidu. So from zaraba yazribu, this is one pattern. Out of 6, there are 3 commonly used patterns from primitive triliteral patterns of Arabic verbs. That is zaraba, for examples, wajada, ba'a, rama. And there is one more pattern, that is nasara yansuru. Examples are qala, da'a. I'll give you complete conjugation of qala because this is very commonly used. Qala nasara. Actually it was qawala, but since qawala was not easy to pronounce, it was changed, replaced with alif, waw was replaced with alif, so it became later qala. Qala, qala, qalu. Nasara, nasara, nasaru. Qalat, nasarat. Qalata, nasarata. Qulna, nasarna. Now you may ask, how is it now qulna with rafa while nasarna is there? So this is also because of the pronunciation. There is certain changes, grammatical changes in the form of verb. This is called talil. You will learn it later. Qulta, nasarta. Qultuma, qultum, qulti, qultuma. Qultunna, qultu, qulna. Nasara, nasara. Complete till nasartu, nasarna. There is one more pattern, primitive triliteral verb pattern, that is sami'a yasma'u. So now I have told you that out of 6 primitive triliteral patterns, 3 are very commonly used for Arabic weak verbs, which are daraba, yadribu, nasara, yansuru, sami'a, yasma'u. Now we have one more important question. Can a weak verb contain hamza? Is there any possibility? Certainly, it is possible. A verb may consist of weak letters and at the same time it may consist of a hamza. For example, ata, ya'ti. Ata, as it is shown here, hamza is written on the first letter and the last radical, the third radical, that is pure weak letter. So now you have understood that there is a possibility that a weak letter may have a hamza. Another question arises here: how does talil leave an impact on the weak verb? In brief, if you want to understand this talil, what is talil? Means certain grammatical changes due to certain reasons. And the bottom line of that reason is, if we want to ease pronunciation of a verb, we bring certain changes. I hope you would remember this. If we want to bring ease, or if I want to ease pronunciation of a weak verb, we bring certain changes, and those changes are technically called ta'lil. So I'll repeat the question: how does ta'lil leave an impact on the weak verb? Yes, certainly it leaves. For example, deletion, omission and replacement are few common changes that take place in a weak verb. Deletion, I'll give you an example. Qala yaqulu la taqul qul. Now you can see in one example of same root letters, everything is happening. Qala, initially it was qawala. Since it was very difficult to pronounce qawala, it became qala. And qul, and another example is la taqul. From same root, qul, initially waw was there, so now there is no waw, there is no alif. So it means it's completely free of weak letters. How it happened? It happened due to deletion. Waw has been deleted, so there is no waw and there is no alif. Now there are only consonant, qaf and lam, qul. So deletion, omission and replacement are few common aspects of ta'lil that have a very visible impact on the weak verb. I'll give you a few more examples. Wazana yazinu zin. Wazana, as you can see, waw is there, first radical. Yazinu, there is no radical in this. Yazinu, waw has been omitted. Zin, there is no weak letter. Second example is waza'a yaza'u za'. In first perfect, there is waw. This is weak letter. But in second and third, yaza'u and za', there is no weak letter. Weak letter has been deleted, omitted. Wahaba yahabu hab. Wahaba, yes, weak letter is visible. We can see, we can pronounce. But in yahabu and hab, there is no weak letter. And this is just to make things easier. And things means to how to pronounce. Impact of weak letter on a verb. You must have heard the word qaza yaqzi. Qaza yaqzi. If we analyze this, we can say this is a naqis. Naqis means a weak verb where third radical is a weak letter. Ya is there. So whenever we write the word qazi without any alif lam or without izafat, we cannot keep this ya intact. We have to delete it. But if we want to keep this, we should use something else also. For example, if I say al-qazi, ya will be there. If I say qazil madina, ya will be there. But if I say qazin, ya will not be there. Another example, waqafa. Waqafa, yaqifu, qif, la taqif, waqifun, mawqufun. So there are so many examples which are good proof for us that these weak letters are a supporting tool to ease pronunciation of Arabic verbs. So I hope you understood everything today. Today's focus was on certain rules and regulations of al-fi'l al-mu'tal, the weak verb. And the weak verb is a verb that consists of a weak letter that could be alif, waw, ya. Thank you so much.